The Warlock, a class with a ton of diversity across multi-classing and spicing into a lot of different classes. In this video today, I'm going to go through how to build your Warlock out. Maybe this is your first playthrough, maybe you're trying to kit Wyll out to be particularly awesome, or you want to hire a generic hireling from Withers to make them your personal Warlock. Whatever it is, we're going to go through what Warlock looks like at level 1, discuss some ways that you can bring this through the progression of the game, what it kind of looks like as you kind of flesh it out more and more, some different multi-class options, and some other things to help you in building your monk out in Baldur's Gate 3. You can jump ahead to any part of the video that interests you the most using the chapters in both the timeline and the description. And don't forget to check me out on Twitch, where I will be streaming Baldur's Gate 3. You can find a link in the description and the pinned comment. Let's get started here on how to build your Warlock in Baldur's Gate 3. Loading into the game, let's talk about race. Now this is of course a single player narrative game. Do not min-max this. Play the way that you want to play. Don't worry about the race, because all of the races have their ability score modifiers wiped clean. This is how every single race plays the game. They start at 8 and you assign the 2 and 1 as you see fit. There are some things that every single race gets access to, and we're going to go through those here right now for the ones that maybe particularly stand out from a quote-unquote min-max point. But if you want some suggestions, here you go. So I would start off with maybe something like a high elf. High elf or high half elf, both will fit into this category, because they get an additional cantrip. Now if you've never played D&D, you know that, well, you probably don't know, but this is, you're going to find out right now. You're going to learn today. Cantrips are level 0 spells, meaning that you can cast them every single turn, just like your Eldritch Blast, which is a big kind of hallmark of being a Warlock. So this gets you access to stuff like Firebolt or Shocking Grasp or Ray of Frost, which are all really, really great abilities. You also get stuff like Friends, which is really good for advantage on charisma checks. So having access to a cantrip out the gate, I actually quite enjoy. So High Elf or High Half Elf are both really great options. Another good option is going to depend upon what you want to be when it comes to Warlock. Now, if you don't know this, Warlocks choose one of 3 packs. One of those packs is called Pact of the Blade. This assumes you're going to be kind of a martial Warlock, or at least using a weapon to some sort of end. In that, the Zariel Tiefling is quite good because they will get access to 2 cantrips, Searing Smite and Branding Smite, and both of those are geared off of a melee weapon. So if you don't have a melee weapon equipped, it's not going to be as beneficial. So if you want to go with a more melee focused Warlock, the Zariel Tiefling is going to be definitely good for you. So will the Half Orc, just because they'll get access to landing critical hits with a melee attack, you deal an extra die of weapon damage. So if you want to go with one of those races, they're definitely quite cool. Now, as far as the small races go, the Dwarf always sticks out to me because of the Shield Dwarf, which gives you proficiency in medium armor. So you'll get that out the gate. That is quite nice if you want to go with more of a stocky character, because you also get proficiency in certain weapons. If you go Pact of the Blade, do not worry about your weapon proficiency, because you can just simply assign your weapon proficiency using an ability, and I'll show that in a little bit. Another option here too is Githyanki, because, and I know it's hard to kind of get past the whole crackhead look, but the female one is choice. But you get access to Martial Prodigy, which gives you light and medium armor as well as proficiency in a bunch of different swords, which is lovely. Cantrips such as Mage Hand right out the gate, and also the ability to leap very far as you go into further levels. Also, their Astral Knowledge gets you proficiency in all skills of a chosen ability, meaning if I chose Charisma, then all of the skills associated with it, Intimidation, Performance, Persuasion, and Deception, all will give me proficiency bonus to them, meaning that's a 2, 3, or 4 depending upon your level. You can see that right here. This proficiency bonus will fall into the skill corresponding as if you were proficient in it. It's a really, really great ability. Also too, humans are great just because they get to choose an additional proficiency, and they get human versatility, which is human versatility, but they also get armor proficiency in light and shields, and they also get a little bit more carry capacity. The last thing I'll mention here is halflings. Now, I've kind of done up a kind of cool looking halfling, and maybe kind of looks like he's part of the WWE, because I think most people look at halflings and kind of just dismiss them, but halflings are still really, really good. They get lucky when you roll a 1 for an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. You can re-roll the die and must use the new roll. So it's a really strong ability, and I think a lot of people pass up on halflings. But if you've not done a playthrough playing a small race, you should try it at least once, because there's portions of the game that you can access as a small race that you were not able to as a medium or large size race. So I definitely encourage you to try it out at least once. Now, moving into the actual Warlock, we'll talk a little bit about some of their mechanics, because they have very specific things. We move into the Cantrips section. We see their Eldritch Blast. Now, there's a lot more to be had about this conversation. I'm going to save that for the Warlock progression point. So go ahead and jump forward if you want to just kind of listen about how Eldritch Blast is very good. But I wanted to bring it up as it's a very potent part of being a Warlock, because you can really increase this spell, which is a cantrip, meaning it is a level 0 spell, and you can cast multiple times, and you can do quite a lot of things with it. But the Warlock has this feature right here called a Warlock spell slot. Now, in 5th edition, I believe it's called Pact casting or Pact magic, and it says you gain Warlock spell slots. Now, unlike other spell slots in the game, those spell slots regenerate when you do a long rest, but for the Warlock, it is a short rest. And another thing worth noting here is you, as a Warlock, will always be assumed to cast the highest level of spell that you can using a Warlock spell slot. What this means is, let's say I've got this spell right here, Armor of Agathis, and it's level 1. Well, when I get to the point where I can cast level 3 spells, this spell will always cast as if it is a level 3 spell. Now, why that is important is if I decide to take Warlock and spice this into, say, a Sorcerer or a Paladin or a Bard, any of the corresponding spells I get from them, I can choose to use my Warlock spell slot to cast it at the highest possible castable spell level without exhausting a spell slot I might have gotten from them. Now, if you are brand new to the game, spell slots are something that every single casting class gets essentially as a resource that they use to cast spells. You don't get a lot as a Warlock. You get something like 1, 2, and 3, I think, is what you get max, because our level cap here is level 12. But the fact that you can just simply short rest to get them on board quicker is really awesome. Yeah, sure, you can go do a long rest, but still, it's nice just to be able to short rest and immediately get your spell slots back to jump back into the fray. But the nice thing too about a Warlock is using tons of your cantrips. That's really going to be the big thing for you. Now, another thing you have to consider with a Warlock is how you're going to go about your Pact. We'll jump into that in a little bit after we go through character creation here. But dodging the conversation on packs, let's talk about our subclass first. So each subclass is going to deliver a set of spells that are unique to that subclass. And the subclass is associated with how you get your spells. Because the Warlock is all about making a pact with something. Either a fiend, a great old one, or an archfey, whatever it is. And from your patron, you derive your spells. So if you get spells from the fiend, you get, I'm going to say demonic quote-unquote spells, but spells that are a little bit more offensive in nature. Start here with Armor of Agathis and Arms of Hadar. And what you're going to also see too is that you're going to get special abilities from choosing that corresponding patron. So take a look here. We get Dark One's Blessing. When you reduce a hostile creature to 0 hit points, this gift from your patron grants you 1 temporary hit point. Now this will evolve as you level and grant you more and more hit points and what have you. At level 6, you'll get access to Dark One's Own Luck, which essentially gives you a 1d10 bonus that you can give to an ability score, score test once per long rest. So you get that nice ability. And then you get Fiendish Resilience, which is basically a resilience against a specific elemental type of your choice. So you choose those things as the fiend, and that's what you get advantage, or what you get access to. But you can see also, if I click spells, I get Burning Hands and I get Command, which are not there if I choose the Great Old One. You can see no Command here and no Burning Hands. So there are spells that are given to you by each subclass. I'm going to link you to the Baldur's Gate 3 wiki, where you can see each and every subclass's spell list to decide if you want to go with a certain one based off of its spells. So for an example here, Fiend gets access to Burning Hands and Command at level 1, but at 3 gets Blindness and Scorching Ray, and at 5, Fireball and Stinking Cloud, then Wall of Fire and Fire Shield, so on and so forth. Now the Great Old One here is going to have a little bit more of, I guess you could say, a CC focus or crowd control focus. We're going to get access to Dissonant Whispers and Tasha's Hideous Laughter as part of our expanded spell list from level 1. You can see they are here. We get access to them. But then we're going to get stuff like Detect Thoughts and Phantasmal Force and Bestow Curse and Slow and Dominate Beasts and Ivard's Black Tentacles. Those are all part of the Great Old One. But we get this subclass feature, the Mortal Reminder. When you land a critical hit against a creature, that creature and nearby enemies must succeed a Wisdom saving throw or become frightened. Now, if you don't know, frightened does this. They can't move, and entities also have disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls whenever they go to do them. So it's quite a little bit of good CC here, right? You also will get Entropic Ward at level 6. This is imposed disadvantage on an attack roll against you. If the attack misses, you gain advantage on your next attack roll against the attacker for 1 turn. So this is a reaction. So you're going to do this if something attacks you. You do it, it goes off. And then if they miss, then you get advantage on them when you go to attack the next turn, which is always going to be a lovely little thing to have. And then eventually at level 10, you'll get access to Thought Shield, Psychic Resistance, and Psychic Reflection. So psychic damage is really going to be a moot point for you as a Great Old One subclass. Lastly, we have the Archfey, which is, I'd say, probably even more based on crowd control. You start off with the Fey Presence, so charm or frighten nearby foes with the Feywild's beguiling, disturbing magics. So you get this as an action, and it lasts for 2 turns. You choose to either charm or frighten something. And charm too, if you did not know this, spellcaster has advantage on charisma checks in dialogue. But you get sleep and Fairy Fire are part of your expanded spell list here, but then you'll get Calm Emotions and Phantasmal Force, Blink, Plant Growth, Dominate Beast, Greater Invisibility. Those are some of the spells you'll be getting as Archfey. At level 6, you'll get access to Misty Escape, which is basically a kind of like a Misty Step. So basically, it's a reaction. So upon taking damage, you become invisible. And then on your next turn, you can cast Misty Step, which will break your invisibility. But it's a great way to just get out of combat. And Misty Step is a really awesome ability because it's a bonus action. So this allows you to just kind of get away from things if need be. And then lastly, you'll get Beguiling Defenses so that you are immune to charm as the Archfey. So you get to choose here for your subclass how you really want to go about it, what kind of spells you want to take advantage of for your Warlock. For our ability points, this is really going to come down to what kind of Warlock you want to be. Do you want to be a pure Warlock? Do you want a multi-class? Whatever you want to do, we're going to go ahead and take a look at that here. So first things first, we're just going to maximize our charisma. That's just going to always happen, and we're going to put 2 points into it. Now, you can decide if you want to go with strength over dexterity. I would prefer dexterity because that gives me an increase to my initiative as well as my armor class. But I'm also going to increase my constitution here because that's going to help me with concentration spells, which I'm going to have in spades as a warlock, as well as increasing my hit points. And then I get to decide where my additional 1 point is going to go. So I'd probably put this to 15 and then pop that here for 16 dexterity if I want to be more of a Pact of the Blade melee combatant. You can also do this just to get better armor class and also get better initiative. But if you want to have a little bit more health, you can do the opposite there, right? And go 16 constitution. I would still retain these last 2 points and put them into wisdom. And the reason I say put them into wisdom is if you're making this for your main character, you want to have wisdom because your wisdom, it's nice to have beneficial rolls against it. But you also, this for some reason is bugged. It should not say -1, it should say 0. Insight is a really important skill. If you don't have it, you can miss entire portions of dialogue. So having this not have any penalties into it, I think is very huge. And if you get a proficiency in it, even bigger. So I really like to just kind of have this at 10. And it also is nice to just have that as a no penalties to any wisdom saving throws. If this was maybe not your main character and you really didn't care, you could drop this down and put it into there if you so wish. Whatever kind of makes sense for you. Or you could swap it into an intelligence, however the route that makes the most sense, again, for you. And skills too, I would focus on, if this is your main character, one of the conversational skills, especially since you'll get tons of natural bonuses to them, because you get your +3 to charisma, or +3 beat because of your charisma. So something like deception, intimidation, or persuasion, you should probably put a proficiency into. And then definitely pick up insight and or perception, depending upon maybe if you're an elf, you'll already have perception. Both the elves and the drow have perception. Or depending on your background, you'll go with like an insight or something like that as well. I would definitely want to pick those up for my Warlock playthrough. Now, when it comes to your origin and your background, go ahead and choose whatever one makes the most sense for you. I almost always go with custom, but if there's a specific character you want to play through, like Wyll, for example, has a very Warlock-themed story because he is a Warlock. So if you want to go with Wyll, then have at it. The Dark Urge is another option here you can go with, which is a particularly twisted playthrough, but one that is very juicy and very, very recommended for a second playthrough. As far as your background goes, again, go with something that fits the role play. If you want to choose something that is very kind of crunchy and min-maxy, Guild Artisan is probably one of the better ones because it just gives you proficiency in insight and persuasion, so you can then put your proficiencies in something else other than these two because they're probably two of the more important skills. But I would say, honestly, choose your background based off of the character you have in mind. Are you a forlorn noble's son that has become a warlock, like, you know, Wyll? Or are you a folk hero that has risen to fame using these spells and cantrips learned by the Pact, like, you know, Wyll? Or are you a former soldier who has fallen to some wayward demonic pact that allows you to kind of reap through the land as a warlock? Whatever you choose is the right one for you. Now, spells and cantrips are going to be dependent upon the kind of character you want to play. Are you going to be up close and personal or what have you? But if you just want two cantrips that are probably going to always be very good, you should never not choose Eldritch Blast. It should always be a cantrip you select because you get access to ways to boost Eldritch Blast as a Warlock, and it is one of your best abilities. Because as you level up, it goes from just having one simple tendril or one simple beam to multiple beams. So you definitely want Eldritch Blast. Also, Friends here gets you advantage on charisma checks. So if you're playing through the game, you go to talk to someone as a particularly hard charisma check, like a persuasion or a deception, having Friends as a cantrip is great because you can just keep recasting it. You don't have to worry about always going for a long rest. Now, into spells, this is going to be dependent upon your subclass, of course. I'm going to assume you're Fiend for this, but don't worry about it. I'm not really going to say focus on Burning Hands and Command. I really, really like Armor of Agathis in the early game because you get 10 hit points and you deal 5 cold damage out. You'll find that at the beginning of the game, you are very weak as far as your overall sustainability, and I think this is just a better version of Mage Armor. You can get Mage Armor, but I would just go with Armor of Agathis because it gives you 10 hit points and nice cold damage. Also, Hellish Rebuke is really cool. I very much like Hex because it is a bonus action and it will really help you out in particularly hard fights that you will deal with. Now, Arms of Hadar is also nice because you can just blow up everything around you, which is kind of cool. I think it's a really cool, and it just depends upon the kind of warlock you want to be. If you want to go with more of a ranged blaster, go with like Witch Bolt, which is going to complement your Eldritch Bolt. You've got those things that you have access to. Now, depending upon your subclass, you might have something like Command, which is very good in the beginning of the game to get access to the Sword of Avernus from the guy on the Nautiloid ship. But if you go with maybe the Great Old One, Tasha's Hideous Laughter is a very strong spell. Could not recommend it enough. And Archfey, too, Sleep is very, very good as well. So getting one of those abilities, depending on which one you take, is also a really good option for your spell. And once you hit level 2 as a Warlock, you'll get your first Eldritch Invocations. And this is what makes your Blast particularly good, your Eldritch Blast. The first two you should pick up are these two. Oops. These two. Agonizing Blast. So when you cast Eldritch Blast, add your Charisma modifier to the damage it deals unless it's negative. So my Charisma modifier is 3. This will add +3 to the damage right out the gate. It's absolutely crucial when you're playing Warlock. Also, Repelling Blast is very good, and it is toggleable. So when you hit a creature with Eldritch Blast, you can push the creature up to 15 feet away from you. This is nice to give you some room to move things around, knock them off of stuff, knock them into a precipice, but you can just simply shut this off if you don't want something to die that you think might have really good equipment on it or whatever it is. It's really nice. And down the road, you'll get access to more Eldritch Invocations, but I think these are the two absolute must pickups. You can also choose stuff in the future like Beguiling Influence, which is going to give you proficiency in Deception and Persuasion if you maybe did not select those during character creation. Fiendish Vigor is pretty cool because you can cast False Life on yourself. Now, what's nice about these, they'll say stuff like this: at will as a level 1 spell without expending a spell slot. So you get 7 temporary hit points, but it falls off of its usefulness. And the only way to swap these Eldritch Invocations is to respec your character. In 5th edition, you could just swap out your Eldritch Invocations every time you got a new one. So you could say, oh, you know what? Now that I'm level 5, I don't need this anymore. I'm going to do like this and this. You can't do that here, unfortunately. But definitely you're going to want Agonizing Blast and Repelling Blast because it's just so fun to turn your Eldritch Blast into a machine gun. At level 3, you choose your Pact Boon, which we talked about before. Now this is where you're really going to determine a lot of things for your character, maybe your future multi-class, whatever it is. So the first one is Pact of the Chain, and you're going to get access to Find Familiar, but also Find Familiar Imp and Find Familiar Quasit. Imp here is going to allow, it's going to be able to turn invisible, it can fly, and it can also sting enemies to give them poison. For Quasit, we can have one that can also turn invisible, and it can scare enemies, so it can frighten them. And I think it's kind of easy to look at these and go, all right, well, is that good? Is that something that I want to be able to do? And what you really kind of have to think about, especially when it comes to the Imp and the Quasit, is that these things are not there to tank damage. They're not there to just sit there and kill things unrelentingly. They're there to basically allow you to move against a ranged unit and give it disadvantage, or move next to something and give maybe a stealther on your team the ability to go do a sneak attack. You use this to do debuffs like scare or sting on things. You don't think of these as these wrecking balls. And on top of it, this is going to be a ritual. So you'll be able to cast each one of these abilities without using a spell slot, and you can just simply do it every time one of them dies. You just go ahead and do it again. So you just bring them right back to life. So these are really, really important and powerful things, but it lends itself to a specific play style. So keep that in mind. Pact of the Blade is the more kind of melee-oriented one. With Pact of the Blade itself, you'll be able to summon a weapon into your hand. It uses the wielder's spell casting ability modifier, which in this case is Charisma, and its damage is magical. And you are also proficient with the weapon, which is crucial. So what this means is you cast this ability and you can summon a number of specific weapons to your hand. Now, those weapons are, we'll show you in a little bit, but it's like Rapier, Halberd, Great Axe, Warhammer, Longsword. You can choose a bunch of ones. And those will level up with you, so they will always be pertinent. But later into the game, you're going to find particularly good weapons. You go, you know, I really like that one. I'm going to go ahead and use it. Well, then you're going to cast Bind Pact weapon. So for all intents and purposes, it turns a normal weapon into a Pact of the Blade, in that it is going to use your Charisma modifier. It's going to become magical, and you're going to become proficient in it. So, are you a strength or a dex-based character? Maybe you're trying to multi-class as a paladin, or maybe you're a warlock multi-classing into paladin, whatever it is, and you have a ton of strength. And you want to use a finesse weapon, which uses your dexterity. Well, Bind Pact weapon, you're good to go. Or maybe vice versa. You are a dexterity-based melee character using finesse weapons that uses your dexterity modifier, and you want to use a strength weapon. Bind Pact weapon, and you're good to go. So this is a really, really awesome ability that allows you to have versatility across every single weapon in the game. It's really, really awesome. Pact of the Tome here is going to grant you access to 3 cantrips, 3 additional cantrips. As we've said many times before, level 0 spells, cast them anytime you want. Guidance is really good. It's going to help you throughout the entirety of the game. If you're disarming traps, if you're doing any kind of conversation, it's probably one of the strongest cantrips in the game. Then you're going to get Vicious Mockery, which is going to disadvantage on the next attack roll, and then Thorn Whip, which allows you to pull things closer. So choose your pact based off of the character you want to play, the warlock you want to build, or maybe the multi-class options you have in mind. Starting a conversation on feats, we have a lot of different fun options for the Warlock, which will also be dependent upon, are you going to be a ranged magic blaster style of character? Do you want to be up close and personal doing damage? Whatever you want to do, we can have fun here with this feat selection. So just to kind of start off, ability improvement is always good for every single class. You can simply put 2 points into this, and there are plenty of what are called half feats, meaning it is a feat that will also give you a bonus to a specific ability. So if I put 2 points here into a Charisma, it puts it at 19. This isn't enough to get me the full +5 to Charisma. Remember, it's every even number after level 10. Instead, at level 4, 8, and 12, we get these feats. So Actor would give us an additional charisma point, putting us at 20. So abilities improvement, choose Actor. I think there's another one called like Performer or something like that. Yeah, Performer. That gives us a charisma feat here. So there's plenty of ways to get charisma through your feats, and ability improvements. Increasing your charisma is great because if you're doing Pact of the Blade, that's raw damage. If you're doing just ranged spellcasting, that's raw damage. So charisma is absolutely crucial for you. Outside of that, we have Warcaster, which is always a really good one. You gain advantage on saving throws to maintain concentration on a spell. Stuff like Hunger of Hadar is a really amazing spell that you get access to. I think I actually have it right now. No, I thought we did. You get access to, and keeping concentration on it is always huge. But in addition, you get a reaction to cast Shocking Grasp when someone moves out of your opportunity range. Remember, they're in close combat with you, they move away, you can do a reaction to do an opportunity attack, but instead you can do Shocking Grasp, which is always cool. You get Spell Sniper, which is great, which is going to give you an additional cantrip to choose from, but also this is going to make it so that you need to roll a critical hit with spells is reduced by 1. So rather than rolling a 20, you can roll a 19 and or a 20. Getting access to as well Elemental Adept to any one of these is really nice. You can do something like Cold, which does trigger with Hunger of Hadar, but basically spells you cast ignore resistance to that specific damage. In addition, you deal cold damage with a spell you cannot roll a 1, so you cannot outright fail. These are nice options that you can choose. Mobile is a nice one here for the ability to kind of move around, get over through things, ignore opportunity attacks. Lucky is always very good. You gain 3 luck points, which you can use to gain advantage on attack rolls, ability checks, or saving throws, or to make an enemy reroll their attack rolls. It's all very, very nice. You can go down specific types of armor if you want to stick into that. You can go into Great Weapon Master if you want to go with like a two-handed weapon-based warlock to really kind of pull more damage out of using great weapons. There's a lot of really cool ways you can do this. If you want to go with a ranged attack, like using like bows, Sharpshooter is very strong here. Shield Master is actually pretty good if you go with a shield on your warlock. There's so many ways you can go about this, and I don't want you to get pigeonholed into just saying, I gotta choose these ways of approaching my character. You can go with Polearm Master and Sentinel if you want to use polearm spells, or I'm sorry, polearm weapons as a warlock for your Pact weapon, or you've multiclassed into a paladin that does use it. So plenty of ways you can do a ton of different things with your warlock, and hopefully these feat options help you out. At level 5, something else special happens with your warlock, and that is your Deepened Pact. So this is where your choice of Pact gets a little bit, well, deeper. Blade Pact holders gain an extra attack with their Pact weapon, meaning that whenever you go to do an attack, it costs you 1 action, but you get to attack twice. It's very good. It's crucial. Everyone gets this. But now, Pact of the Chain Familiars also gain an extra attack, and your Pact of the Tome Warlocks can cast Animate Dead, Haste, and Call Lightning once per long rest. So if you chose Pact of the Tome and you're like, this is a little underwhelming, this is when it becomes really good, because all 3 of those spells are very strong for you. So it's also a point when your cantrips will start to scale and do more damage. So this is kind of a bit of a breaking point for almost every character in the game. Level 5 is a pretty big jump for you. But you'll also get access to your 3rd invocation. And your invocations, I didn't talk about this earlier, but you'll start to get access to more invocations. And that will happen every couple of levels. Like at level 5, you'll get Sign of Ill Omen and Mire the Mind. Those are 2 ones that are added here for you. So these 2 right here. And at level 7, you'll get access to Dreadful Word, Sculptor of Flesh. That's going to give you Polymorph and Confusion. But if you do the Pact of the Pact of the Tome, then your Book of Shadows now gives you Ray of Sickness, Chromatic Orb, and Silence. So if you really want to be more of a spellcaster, that Pact of the Tome is really the focus you want to take. Then you get Minions of Chaos at level 9, which gives you Conjure Elemental, and level 12 gives you Life Drinker, which means your melee attacks deal additional necrotic damage equal to your charisma modifier. So you will get quite a few invocations in your playthrough. I believe in total you'll have 6 invocations that you can choose from. So it's just kind of worth noting that level 5 is a pretty big breaking point for your character. And as you level up your Warlock, you'll just choose more spells, you'll get more subclass features. As you can see, here's Dark One's Own Blessing. This is the 1d10 to an ability check. And this will just kind of progress for you all the way through your Warlock levels. You'll choose more Eldritch Invocation. I'm just going to choose one, doesn't really matter here. A Book of Ancient Secrets. I think I made it sound too much like you can only do this if you are Pact of the Tome. I was saying that Pact of the Tome gets to get more benefit from Book of the Ancient Secrets. This was the one I was talking about that gives you Ray of Sickness, Chromatic Orb, and Silent Spells. They're just more spells that you can take advantage of. And they don't expend any spell slots when cast because they are rituals. So that is always very nice. But again, progressing through this, you're just going to be able to choose more and more of these abilities until you get to level 11, where you will eventually choose a Mystical Arcanum, which is a level 6 spell from the Warlock spell slot or spell list. So the Warlock here has a ton of things to choose from and a ton of things that you can do. And I want to now spice into this how you can look at this angle. And usually I stop here around level 8 or 9 because I think it's like that at that point you're just kind of doing a lot of the same. We're going to take a look at this now from different multi-class angles because you can go even crazier in different directions with this class. For those wanting to make maybe more of a support or a caster style of Warlock, there is the good old faithful Bard lock. Now this can be done one of two ways. You either start as a Warlock and go 5 levels into Warlock, and then the rest into Bard, choosing the School of Swords. That makes for a more, I guess you can say, melee-centric Warlock, but it's still your ranged blaster with the capability to use your Bardic Inspirations to help you out in a melee standpoint. So if you want someone that can hold their own in combat, that's the way to go. But the other route is choosing Bard and going with the School of Knowledge and choosing only 2 levels of Warlock to get access to some additional fun things. So let's take a look at what that might look like. So level 3 on Bard is where we get access to our subclass, right? So we go with College of Lore, which is going to give us access to our spell slots, which are crucial, of course, because we can buff them up as a Warlock. But we also get access to 3 proficiencies. Essentially, the College of Lore turns you very much into a caster, but also a very big skill monkey. So you can go heavy into Sleight of Hand here. I can then pull more of it into Sleight of Hand to go even better at disarming traps and all sorts of stuff. You can have a lot of fun with this. You can get really heavy into Persuasion. You can get heavy into Deception. Getting that additional bit of skills with expertise and skills with proficiency allows you to really have huge ability score bonuses to, again, disarm traps, pick locks, or perceive hidden things or traps, insight your way through certain conversations, persuade your way through certain conversations. You just have so many tools at your disposal when you go with the already innate Jack of all trades. Your vast experience makes you more likely to succeed in any undertaking. Add half your proficiency bonus right now down to ability checks that you are not proficient in. So Bards, if you've not played a Bard, they can bypass so many parts of the game that you'll never experience, that you would have experienced maybe on a fighting-based character. You're like, I gotta fight them, but the Bard can just talk their way through it. It's pretty crazy. But you also get Cutting Words. Use your wit to distract a creature and sap its confidence, whereas the other two get different types of Bardic Inspirations. Spells here as well. You can just go ahead and choose your typical kind of spells that you would as you progress through this. And what did I do? Oh, just choose things randomly. There we go. I'm just pressing stuff. Now, pushing here into 4, we would choose our feat, and I'm just going to go ahead and pick up something like, I'll go with Actor. I'm just going to choose it for the sake of the video to push through this portion of the video quickly, because what we really want to get to, Enhance Ability is awesome, by the way. Gain advantage on ability checks with a chosen ability, so advantage on Charisma for all of my conversation rolls. We want to get into level 5, which is, of course, always good because it's going to give me some fun stuff. I get improved Bardic Inspiration, which gives me a 1d8, and a Font of Inspiration. You regain all your Bardic Inspiration after a long or short rest, whereas previously it was only a long rest. So that is always very crucial here. But the big thing I want is either to multi-class now after I've gotten these two to increase my Bardic Inspiration, or wait until level 6 to get Magical Secrets from College of Lore. Let's see, I'll show you how that works. Magical Secret. So we choose 2 spells from this list, and it's pretty awesome, right? You can also, Armor of Agathis is on this list that we already get from being a Warlock. Hunger of Hadar is on this list, which you again already get from being a Warlock. So you can choose these rather than getting them on the Warlock portion. But you know what? Stuff like Fireball is really great. I don't know, I'm trying to look at other ones. Spirit Guardians is amazing. So you can have these already going at college for your College of Lore in addition to your spells. And I'd say after this point, I don't know what I would choose here. I'll just, here, hold person's good. After this point is when I would pivot for 2 spicy levels into Warlock. So we'll go ahead and do that. And your subclass here can be, again, based off of how you want to play your game. Do you want to go more with Great Old One or Archfey or Fiend? It's really going to come down to you and your personal preference. I'm just going to choose Great Old One because I always choose Fiend, but also definitely pick up Eldritch Blast. And I'll go with, I don't know, Minor Illusion. Seems fun. And then at level 2, as a Warlock, what do we get access to? Our Eldritch Invocations. It's not so important we get access to our what's it called? Our Pact boons. It's more important we get access to these Eldritch Invocations. And because our spells are only limited to level 1 here, as far as our options go, you can choose Hunger of Hadar in those magical secrets, or any of the other spells from the Warlock list that you really couldn't tap into. And what this allows for us to do is get some really fun stuff going here. I mean, you can go Pact boon, but we're not gonna. We're just gonna go back here, level 7. I'm just gonna choose one. Doesn't matter. And let me show you when we jump back into the game what this now looks like. So here are all of our spell slots, and this is only level 9. So if I want to cast any of these abilities here, let's just go ahead and press this. I can use so many more spell slots than I would otherwise have access to because my level 1 Warlock spells can tap into all this. So I can just go ahead and cast those spells on that rather than wasting them on a different one. And then they're just replenishable for me. So you have a lot of spell slots. You have access to a ton of different other little things that you can do. And you're also a charisma class twice over, right? You're a Warlock as well as a Bard with tons of things to take advantage of. And you can really do a lot of powerful things with this. Now, another really popular option is going with Paladin and Warlock because they are both charisma-based classes. Now, here you'd go with Oath of Vengeance is my personal preference because I just really like it. It's really good. Oath of Vengeance Paladins, you know, you have your certain tenets, but the point of this would be to become an Oath Breaker. You don't need to. You could just stick with Oath of Vengeance if you so wish, but Oath Breaker is just really fun and thematic to be an Oath Breaker and a Warlock. It just is a really cool RP. There's nothing about one over the other that makes anyone better. Just choose an oath that you like. But let's just say Oath of Vengeance because for the pretense of this video, I don't want to go quickly break a tenet and show it off and blah, blah, blah. We'll just do Oath of Vengeance and here it is. And you go ahead and level up and you start to get access to some fun abilities. You know, you get your Divine Smites and all sorts of fun fighting styles, which you can choose, you know, do you want to go with a Great Weapon to really just double down on this and then make that a Pact weapon? Because that's what you're going to do. You're going to put 7 levels into Paladin and 5 levels into Warlock. And those Warlock levels are going to be focused on really pulling more out of your melee capabilities. So choose between sword and board or choose between great weapons. It's up to you. Defense is going to increase your armor class while wearing armor. Dueling just means you cannot use 2 weapons or a 2-handed weapon. If you use a weapon in one hand and a shield in the other hand, you still get the bonus here of dueling. So don't think you can only use one weapon. It used to be called single weapon fighting or something like that. Protection here, you have a shield, impose disadvantage, or when you have a shield, impose disadvantage on an attack against your allies when you are within 5 feet, and it's a reaction. So if you want to be more of a tank, you've got those capabilities. Let's go with great weapon fighting because it's going to be a fun little showcase here. And as you just kind of progress through this, we'll jump ahead here, but we get fun things to get going here, right? Like Divine Health, we've got Vow of Enmity, Abjure Enemy. We already had our Divine Smite kick in, and we also now get access to Wrathful Smite, possibly frightens your target, or Searing Smite, deals an extra 1d6 fire damage, or Thunderous Smite. So we start to get all the fun capabilities that we get as a Paladin. Let's now jump ahead and see what it looks like spiced in with some Warlock. So here we are at level 7 for our Paladin, and the big thing here is we wanted this last subclass feature. So whatever oath you take, you'll get another subclass feature at 7. You'll get your extra attack at 5. You'll get some other benefits here and there as you go up through this, and you also get your feat at 4. So you want to get all those things online, and then we would go ahead and just accept this. I don't care what the other stuff is, and we'd go ahead and start spicing into Warlock, right? And the focus here for that is to, of course, go with Pact of the Blade. Now we're not going to be able to get here because I'm not level 10 on this character, but Pact of the Blade is what we want to get, because that Pact weapon is going to be even stronger, because we already have so many amazing things going for us as a Paladin. Maybe we go with Oath of Devotion, and you can add your Charisma score into that even before you become a Warlock. So you have a lot of ways to go about this. You get your Aura of Protection, or whatever aura it is that you get. There's an aura that you get active here at like level 6, and you're just kind of spicing in more and more fun things into this class to give you a lot more range capability or reaction to whenever you get hit, stuff like that. So this is a very fun and very up close and personal way of playing. You get access to your Channel Oath charges, which you get lots of armor in the very early parts of the game to take advantage of, and you can do a lot of really cool things with. You get your Lay on Hand charges. You get all of the fun things here. Paladin, let's go passives. We have all of your Repelling Blast stuff here and everything that's fun and active there. There's your Aura of Protection. You are nearby allies gain +3 bonus to saving throws. So, and it is a permanent one. So really take a look at these two multi-class options, because it's great ways to turn your Warlock into a person that you maybe felt was a little underwhelming. And maybe you want to jump into the Sorcerer. A Warlock Sorcerer is an amazing option, going maybe with the Pact of Shadows, Pact of the Tome, and pulling tons of spells from that, in addition to what you get from the invocations down the road if you go heavier into Warlock than Sorcerer. You're taking advantage of the innate bonuses you already get as a Charisma-based class and spicing it into one of the other 3 Charisma-based classes that are already very good. And there's tons of other multi-class options you can choose from to really have a lot of fun as a Warlock. So if you're struggling as a Warlock, please go ahead and let me know in the comment section below how you maybe are struggling, or what you really are struggling to get off the ground with them. Or if you're playing the Warlock and you have mastered this, or you've played 5th edition, and you want to give people some suggestions, throw in some multi-class things that you have really seen successful in Baldur's Gate 3 in the comment section below. I'm always huge on you guys trying to promote and give as much information about these classes to people that are brand new to this series to really help them get off the ground. Maybe you want to have Wyll be a different character. This is some of the ways that you can do it, multi-classing him and spicing him into different directions. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one, and take care.